Wait up, wait up, wait up!
If you would have just read... You read from the book?
For me!
You never read from the book.
I'm coming. Slow down.
Hurry up!
Record, even if it is super awkward that I have my head in Jonna's lap.
You wouldn't be the first time. I didn't think so, but
I didn't think it was going to be this kind of show,
I used
folks.
to wear a button right here that said, "Careful, no, there's suffocating between these." I didn't know if I wore it there or if I put it up here.
Mike just got an introduction to the two of us once the record button goes live.
Tonight on It's the Mind, we will explore the strange phenomenon of deja vu. That strange sensation that you're living the same day over. Tonight on It's the Mind, we will explore the strange phenomenon of deja vu. Tonight.
Well, you're having Groundhog Day.
I'm having a week.
You're having Groundhog Day over and over and over again.
So if everyone watching would go to Raconteur Press's Substack and pay for a subscription, I might be able to pay the mechanic to let me go home. Anyway, hi everyone.
Hi.
So we're recording this on a Wednesday. Mike was supposed to head home on Sunday. And here he is.
He's stuck in the Twilight Zone. Notice the blanket for it.
It wasn't the squirrel.
That's what he said.
For all we know.
For those who don't know, we should back up and explain the whole squirrel thing. Because squirrels are endemic to this particular organization. But we didn't mean for you to take us literally.
Yeah. So, Thursday night, I go into the garage, and there's a squirrel in there, and he goes, and he runs up under the engine block. And he's cussing me out, and I'm like, all right, partner. So I figure I'll just leave the garage door open overnight, and when I leave in the morning, he'll have been gone.
Well, yeah.
Right? Clear. I mean, anyone else who's under my truck would probably get out.
So optimistic.
It's a squirrel.
Yeah, so the next morning I leave. It's 7.5, 8 hour drive for me as I'm crossing the river up here to come into Texas, into Wichita Falls. There's this high pitched noise coming out of the rear somewhere in the truck. I was like, I didn't notice this noise for the last 7.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, when I got here, I was telling Ian about it. And he's like, why don't you pop the hood and we'll take a look, right?
We
pop the hood and there's a squirrel sitting right there. Calling him foul names. And it run up under the engine block. Well, as soon as I didn't even see the squirrel, he opened it and I heard and I shouted, "There's an effing squirrel in my engine block!" Because I knew exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And I don't know where he was for 8 hours, but it couldn't have been comfortable.
He was like doing that, the kid who crawls into the landing gear spot,
And then we drove for him, because I wanted him to listen to the noises. We drove to Fool's Con.
Yeah.
And
it's like 10 miles.
Some rough roads to knock the little bugger loose.
Yeah, we were hoping to see a little tumbling squirrel in the rear view. But he was still there, and Mark went after it and almost got it, and we just left the hood open, and eventually...
At the Shrine Hall.
I think, yeah.
Right? So
yes, so if you see any strange hybrid squirrel mutants around the Shriner Hall in North Texas.
If you're gonna import squirrels across state lines illegally, and to mess with the girls on this side of the fence, you brought one that has a really good Darwin quotient. You know?
He's a survivor.
He's a survivor.
Or he's addicting to huffing exhaust fumes.
Yeah, or he's a stoned little guy.
Yeah.
I was so tempted to go get a whole bunch of little glow sticks and stick them under your truck.
Yeah, let's not add to the...
So meanwhile, all the guys decide that his differential had an issue.
Right. Well, and I think that was still a spot on, that was correct, because that's been, that's one of the problems. They're just, right now, the Barry the mechanic realizes that noise is something else. So we just don't know what the other thing is, and
So you're
burning
stuck,
out my rear end.
You've not been to Taco Bell even.
On many levels, yes.
So you're stuck in limbo, which looks an awful lot
Yeah.
like the blanket
It
fort.
looks like the blanket fort. So.
Right, where I am.
Or at my house, where Toast loves your backpack.
Yes. And every day I come to the back to the blanket fort where me and the rest of the Hebrews are making bricks.
Well, yeah, he's like here, and I'm like, well, you're here, you're gonna work, and he's like, oh, okay. So, no, it's been kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's been fun having you around.
Thank
So
you.
it's like you're getting the mini internship. So
Yeah.
and,
The intense internship.
but we've been having great conversations. We had a big long conversation about pulps and how wonderful we thought they were, and the whys and wherefores and philosophy behind the press, and how we work as people, and that, and we'll just ignore him. So he's like,
In Ian's defense, he's working with a program called Clip Chimp. So it's a monkey. It's an electronic monkey.
It's a virtual clip joint.
So, and he's trying to figure it out, and his face keeps turning red, and he keeps covering his face and trying not to swear. Although I must admit, the two of you guys swearing together is pretty entertaining.
Yes, you were definitely tag teaming that. And now he's trying not to swear because we're recording. And for some reason, he thinks that when Jonna and I are recording, that he shouldn't swear.
Right?
Right.
I mean, hello. So, I mean, it's not like, and so it's understandable, but it's, like I said, it's been kind of fun to have you here, because we've been able to
Yay.
talk about, have these big, long, in-depth philosophical conversations.
Well, and we've also had some really great collaboration
Oh, isn't that the best?
happen. Like,
Some of the brainstorming
Oh,
has just been
man.
epic.
guys,
Oh,
if you
wow.
aren't buying Space Cowboys 5, like a lot of cool stuff the cool extra special stuffs were brainstormed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
right here.
we were like sitting around. Well, part of it, and Sarah, God bless her, was like, "Who was you said we're now completely out of control?" And she said, "Like, not like that's a bad thing." So we have been climbing the ranges and finding all kinds of fun things and bouncing off each other.
Can we talk about it? Because chances are this is coming out after.
Oh, it will be coming out
after it's live.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So let's start it, because I'm excited. I want to
let's
talk
talk.
about this.
I think, well, it started with the Board Yet live stream.
Well, yeah, because no, it started before that, because you and I were sitting around and we were talking about, we have to get this thing up for Space Cowboys.
Right.
We have to get a post up on Substack about that, because we try to do stuff ahead of time.
Oh, right.
And I kind of put someone together for Facebook, and I went, hey, we need to do this. So then when we put together that ridiculously silly, it's like, hey, do you know Rick's in this one?
Yeah.
Rick Cutler's in this one,
We just
too.
had a lot of fun with Rick Cutler in there.
Right?
Yeah.
And then,
Who let Rick Cutler in the building?
right? So, and then from there, we segued off to we knew that Cedar was going to do illustrations again.
Yes.
Right. We did, and we knew the illustrations were coming, and we wanted to start doing those pulp advertisements
Yes.
as a cool little extra.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's a fun, creative exercise, and very, again, we're going to keep using this word, collaborative.
Collaborative. Plus, you and I were both deliriously tired.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because we just come off of Fool's Con, and we were like,
I've been a wreck all week. Yeah.
Well, we were exhausted. I didn't get a lot of sleep.
Yeah, that day in particular.
And when we started, that's the day we were doing the Space Cowboys. And then we were like, we started looking for advertisements from pulp magazines.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we found some amazing resources.
There's some great art and some really fun advertisements.
They did not take themselves seriously, which is a beautiful thing.
Yes. Oh my God, they were so much fun. And so we just dove into it. We started bouncing it back and forth.
Well, and the one thing that happened.
Oh, she came in with that.
Yeah. Well, that started on the Discord.
Yes.
Where it was a discussion about Ian's story about buying a rocket launcher.
A rocket launcher in Africa.
Dad took us shopping one day. Mister, you dropped your launcher.
It wasn't Africa, it was Lebanon.
Oh, sorry, Lebanon, excuse me.
Pardon me, it was Beirut. Slightly classy, more civilized, clearly. Yes?
Beirut is more classy than...
That's what he's claiming.
It was.
At the time, yes.
Well, I could see
It was
that.
before the bombing of the Marine Barracks.
right.
So,
Right, it was nice,
Yeah.
you know, when it was still a cosmopolitan city instead of like
Yeah.
the latest bomb of the week. So,
and then it was Raptor. It was Milburn
Oh.
who said something about, now I have this image of my head of a character I want to put in a story.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Blah,
just
blah, blah.
ran away with
Ian
it.
is
Right.
the arms dealer.
And yeah, Ian the arms dealer, and then Sam Robb came on there and said, I buy my guns from my friend who's a T-Rex. He's the small arms dealer.
We're like, no.
And then Jesse posted a picture
Yes,
of a
the
T-Rex, right?
Yeah.
With a bandolier.
It
And,
was like,
Yeah.
and
you
then
know-
that's when I looked at you and I was like, Rex Cutler, small arms dealer. And that,
and then we were gone for like
Yeah.
the next hour and a half, pulling up ads and creating
Right.
stuff and filling it. We have our own company Slack, and we were posting ad after ad and writing stuff. Oh, look at this one. You know, it was just this wild, crazy stretch of, did you see this? Oh, and I would post a picture and you'd like, oh, perfect text. And you write text for it.
yeah, then
you
I'm
know?
writing copy for that picture.
Yeah, because I'm not, and then Cedar would come along and go, bing, here's the picture, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
here's the
she was
picture.
working
Here's the
at
picture
home.
with copy, and we're like,
Ah! You know, it was so
And
much
I
fun.
was briefly here because Slack is great. We've been doing some really good work in there with everybody.
Yeah.
But actually being in the same room and bouncing off of things.
And then we went around the bend completely. So.
Yeah. And I was briefly here, and you showed me that fantastic ad from Colt of the.
get her what she really wants for Christmas.
Get her what she really wants
What
for
a
and
Christmas.
that
great
was
photo.
like, I must do something with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So then she went back home, and then bing, 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 appeared on Slack.
Then I started working on the ideas that you guys had given me as far as creating art for it.
Yeah.
So that was, and all of this, if you buy Space Cowboys, you'll have to look for it.
Space Cowboys 5.
Space Cowboys 5, Cattle Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have to look for it because I didn't make all of the fun stuff easy for you.
Yeah. No.
No, because, well, ebooks, if you buy the paper book, it's really going to be the best effect.
Yeah.
But even in an ebook, the way Amazon sets them up, when you first open an ebook, you're usually past all of the front matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you don't look at the front matter unless you actually have a reason to, and most people don't.
No.
And when you get to the end of the book, most people don't keep flipping through to look at what comes after the stories. So
this is an adventure movie.
this is,
Mhm.
yes.
Completely adventure movie. Something before the credits and something after.
Yep.
So.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm having a blast with just illustrating people's stories
Oh yeah.
There's
because
some cool pictures.
well, I'm trying to create stuff that goes with people's stories.
Mhm.
And when we did Weird West, I did the illustrations. I put the illustrations after the stories because some of them had spoilers in them. So with this one, I was more careful not to put spoilers in the images and they're before the stories.
But the fun part too is it harkens back to the pulp era where you have all this. And Maggie Hogarth was so funny. She's like, "Oh, everybody got a picture!" Yes, because normally it was only the big names that got one. But you know, we're all about equal share, so we all can equal shares. So
Yeah. And the whole thing is, if we're going to lean into becoming pulp magazines reincarnated, I wanted to lean all the way in, and that meant the illustrations, and that meant the ads. And you write brilliant ad copy.
yes, you do. Tell it some more. Well, but the fun part too also was like having you in the room. You know, that happens a lot here. That freedom of just go, just play.
Yeah.
Just no idea is too stupid. No, I mean, and being theater geeks, we're familiar with this.
Yeah, that
Which
whole
is like, oh my God, I actually
improvisational,
get a-
collaborative.
I have a theater person. Okay, thank you.
I have missed doing improv because it
Yeah.
used to actually be part of my professional life.
Yeah.
I was an entertainer for almost 20 years. And when you're working with kids, things that you may plan to happen are not going to happen. So you learn to improv.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Improv well. And so then when we were at FoolsCon, the little improv skits that were
Oh my God!
I had so much fun.
You were not there.
So
You
Mike
don't
and I got
know.
bored, and we were at this Shriner's temple. They had all these bizarre Egyptian backdrops and weird things, and he and I were standing in the lobby, and we're like looking at this backdrop, and we're like, "I got a phone."
Yeah. something's going to happen here. Yeah.
It's like we have to do something with this, and I was like,
Ian needs to come over here and explain about the backdrops because he put it the best way. Because it was weird because you're looking around this room and there's multiple backdrops.
There's a great huge room, right? Big shrine thing, and there's Egyptian, oh, Egyptian,
and then the printed out
Aztec.
temple thing. Yeah.
Aztec. Mayan pyramids. I mean,
We want a pyramid. We don't care what culture it
No,
comes
but it
from.
was in the darkest corner.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, because they knew when they got it. They're like,
Yeah, it's like, well, little Timmy, we couldn't raise enough money for you up on the altar.
yeah.
Right. But it was like, it was just what? It was just so bizarre because, and we're like looking at this thing going, okay, that one we get to play with.
It was weird just because there was a very clear theme, and then you're like,
one of these things was not like the others.
yeah. Horus Quetzalcoatl.
What are we doing here? It's just like, but we were like, so we gave ourselves permission to play.
Well, what was fun about that too, it started with you and me.
You and me out in the front lobby.
Right.
We did one.
And then it was you and me and
in
Kelly.
We went, and that one, everyone saw us doing that one.
Right.
And they were like, what are they
then-
doing?
and
The
yeah,
third one.
Wally and Ian jumped in,
Did,
and then we had like,
and then we had a whole stack for the
Yeah.
next one. And then we did story time with Ben.
oh
Yes.
man, that was great.
Yeah, and Ben wandered over. It was just like, what are you doing? It's like, we're having fun.
Oh.
But that's the thing, is that instant.
The story time for Ben involves a throne and a whole bunch of adoring science fiction people.
Well, it's the banner on North Texas Troublemakers right now.
And the theme of that photo is just how things ought to be.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah. Yes.
All sitting around Ben's feet while he tells us stories.
And and on the live stream, I explained that when I asked Ben, we were standing there, I'm like, Ben, will you go sit in the throne? And he had been watching us do all these things, and Ben, with that little quirky grin of his, he says, well, that sounds appropriately funny. I'm like, oh my God, you were so glorious.
And of course, I'm wearing the wraparound skirt.
Right, yeah.
So
Oh,
I
yeah.
hop up and twist, and the skirt falls open. And I mean, I was wearing bike shorts. I knew what I was doing.
It was very Frank Frazetta.
I was
very-
yes,
we were doing
and that
the
was
Frazetta
my
thing.
thought. I wanted to do the Frank Frazetta thing.
But it was also the importance of play.
Yes.
And I'm going to keep coming back to that in
Mhm.
terms of play and being willing to bounce things off, and the collaborative process of just the fun
Mhm.
Right.
of sitting around and giving each other permission.
Well,
You know.
And this is what science fiction conventions ought to be.
Mhm.
And when I first got involved, I thought that's what it was going to be like.
Mhm.
And sadly, it wasn't. And I had a conversation with the late Mike Resnick.
Oh, Mike Resnick, best man ever.
Just like a year or two before he passed,
Yeah.
we were at Millenicon, which was also died right about the same time, unfortunately. And he and I were sitting there, and he's telling me con stories.
Yeah.
And he's telling me about they were all at this table, and this one lady was just tiny, and she was wearing German costume. I can't remember the name of it.
Darndl?
Not a dirndl. It was the little leather shorts thing.
She's wearing lederhosen.
Lederhosen.
She's wearing
Thank you.
lederhosen. Yeah.
And I don't remember how it got started, but basically they were passing her around the table from lap to lap.
Yeah.
And it was like, that just sounds like fun.
Yeah. Look at your face is priceless.
But he was telling me
Clearly that didn't happen in the 21st century.
which is
Or
the
did it?
sad thing.
It's the sad thing.
Because it was, they were playing, they were having fun. There wasn't anything. I mean,
Yes.
there was probably flirting going on, but it wasn't like super serious.
Right.
We're going to go weird places with this. It was fun.
Well, and that's
Honestly, around a
playful.
science fiction convention, it doesn't get much weirder than that.
Well, so here's the other thing too: is that as a press, we live in the space of is it fun, you
Mhm.
know, and is it inspiring? Is it fun? Does it create whimsy?
Mm.
Is it sense of wonder?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
Oh,
said, one of our keywords, whimsy.
Whimsy,
Right?
yes.
right, and
Rule number 6, don't take yourself so damn seriously.
Yes.
well, and that's the thing too. Is like,
Have we written down the rules?
There are no other
well,
rules.
he said
Oh.
rule 6, and I
You
figured
said
there is
rule
one.
6, and I'm like, do we
Rule
have
6
that?
comes from Ben Zander, The Art
right,
of Possibility. It's a great book,
fabulous
Art
book.
Possibility by Ben and Rosamund Zander. And those names may be out of
I'll be
order.
right back.
But they're out of order.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. Jonna's going to grab a copy of it. And it's a great book about because he's a conductor, and I cannot.
Orchestra, not trains. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, don't limit yourself to just one thing.
I know. I
yes,
mean,
but an orchestra conductor, and he just takes this creative approach, and I believe his wife is a counselor.
Yes.
And they just kind of pooled their experiences together. It's a great book, guys.
Yeah.
The Art of Possibility.
Fabulous book.
You know, we're talking about letting yourself do stuff, and it's letting yourself fail too.
Well, and that's the important thing too, is recognizing that failure can lead you to even greater success.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah,
well,
amazing how
you
that
really
works.
can't learn unless you fail.
Oh, yes,
because you learn from the failures.
Well, and something too that you learn when you're doing improv and when you're learning about just beginning to play is that there's no wrong ideas.
Yeah,
because one idea builds on another.
Yeah,
you know, and so, and there's an honesty in that play that you don't find in a lot of other places, and just being willing to be vulnerable and be in that space. You know, so, and I think our theater stuff, we live in that space, right? When you're doing theater, writers find it sometimes they work so hard to be perfect the first time that she says pointedly, looking at somebody,
we're looking at you,
looking at you, that they're too worried about the first time being perfect.
Right.
Well, and
the sense of play needs to come into your writing and to be comfortable with letting it suck and letting it be. So, and just letting it be, just vomit it on the page, because in that space you can find things you did not expect.
Yeah.
You know,
so, and this is an argument too for pantsing. By flying by the seat of your pants.
Oh, I had a whole different image in my head.
In your
pantsing.
Yes, we've been doing that a lot today with the whole multiple meetings at the same words.
Well, I mean, because when I'm saying pantsing, I'm thinking it's like, take those off. But anyway.
She's like, those don't fit. Let me alter.
Okay, or that's where you think I was going. But okay, we'll just let you have that one. So.
If my wife's watching this, my pants have stayed on the whole time.
Yes, Jonna's title is "She Who Makes Us Wear Pants."
Right.
So see, pants. Yes.
But
pantsing when you're doing a story you're improving the story when
have
you're
a
writing.
Sense of whimsy.
Yes.
Have a sense of whimsy. Yes. Just let it be.
And you can't get so locked into an outline. And I think that you can over outline.
Mr. Rulebound,
formulaic.
Yeah, so rigid that it feels stiff. And highly formal.
Which is okay in some circumstances, but not in your writing.
Well, and just because you're pantsing it or being whimsical or just whatever, wow, you're flowing there.
Yeah.
Free becomes in front of that, and that's all I'm going with.
Free flowing.
That doesn't mean it's going to be great, but it'll hopefully lead you somewhere else. You know, get over it and let it.
You wind up in unexpected places.
Yes,
places that you couldn't have anticipated until you actually got there.
Yeah.
Do you think Pulp's had any idea where they'd end up? So,
no.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's the point. Pulp was the trash stuff. It was meant to be thrown out. It was disposable. It certainly wasn't meant to be 100 years later. I'm pulling it off my shelf and showing it to Mike, going, "Look at the cover on this thing."
Yeah.
And it's literally been 100 years since the first Pulps came out.
A little bit longer than
that. A little bit longer, yeah.
But, and the ethos of Pulp, what it was, has endured.
Yes.
So.
Well, and that kind of reminds me of that, what was it, a dojo episode? Or there's a thing where Larry's getting into it with whoever that guy is, was saying, people should be learning something from your writing, or there should be
message bullshit.
If you're just writing to entertain, you're not doing it right. And I'm like, hold on a second. Pulp actually impacted our culture.
Well, okay.
Right?
So when
profoundly,
right.
Not only that, but when you are in difficult times, people look for escapism. They want a story of hope. They want a story of fun. They want a story of rising above in a silly and fun way. They want to know that the good guy can win. The white hats can win. And so very much of Pulps is like the cowboys and the all of that. It was like dealing with unknown things and still rising to the best that humanity can be, right? In a fun and adventuresome story, right?
Yeah,
yeah. So, don't we need Pulps right now?
Right.
So, which is part of what is driving us to do some of the things that we're doing, and I mean, adding illustrations and and the playful adds to the books means that we're turning them back into the pulp magazines.
Yes.
And we haven't yet figured out the whole subscription thing. We know y'all keep asking for it.
I know it's going to take a while to figure that out.
But that's the other thing is we're venturing into this carefully because it is unknown, and we're exploring
unknown. The very first pulp.
Yes.
So
and also weird and
yes.
Well, and the thing too is we can't just recreate how they were done then.
No,
it has to be in the context of the tools we have now.
Yes.
Right.
So
and we have some amazing tools.
Well, and that's an interesting thought too, because there's that whole thing in literary analysis, right? That you got Homer writing the Odyssey, and then the Aeneid is a conversation with Homer, right? And then the next, even the Green Knight is a conversation with those kind of stories, right? And here we are having a conversation with Robert E. Howard.
Yes.
And oh man, let's name them. I mean, H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah,
Edgar Rice Burroughs. Oh my God, I'm having a conversation with John Carter, Jedax on the pages, right? Louis L'Amour. We're having conversations with these authors by doing that.
Yeah.
Well, and pulp paper is, I mean, some of my pulps. I was like handing things to Mike last night, and he was like, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to open it because it's going to break. Because that's the thing with pulp, is that the paper was never meant to last this long, and so it's fragile, it's brittle, and it was the cheapest thing possible then. So what we're doing with ebooks and with print on demand for the paper is the same thing.
Pretty much.
Totally different tools, but the same ethos of this is a way we can produce entertainment and material and get it out to the masses, to as many people as possible, in a way that they can afford, will eventually support us, and it means that they're not having to go out there and spend lots of money on the what in the day that was denigrating the pulps were the hardback novels, the beautifully tooled, and I have some of those beautifully tooled leather covers and gold on the edges of the pages, and there was if you go back to Victorian England or in that rough area, there were lending libraries, and you paid a fee, which is Kindle Unlimited now.
Yeah.
So I mean, what we're doing has roots that go way, way back.
Yep. Concepts are the same. The tools are different.
And I like the idea that we're bringing heroic fiction.
Yes.
Back, right. I'm so done with. There's nothing wrong with a flawed character, but I don't need a psychotic superhero or a dark Superman.
Shonarant.
We're done with. Ian's getting mad over here. He's going to fling monkey poop.
Is it? You're going to talk.
You have to get in the film if you're going to make a point, sir.
A little further in. Further in, they can't see your face. Cuddle up a ways.
Don't act like it's your first time.
We are in a very uncertain time.
Yes, we are.
Socially, politically, we're in a time of upheaval, much like the 20s.
Yes, we are. Very much so.
Okay. People need to be able to grab something, and in the tumult of their current lives, the uncertainty, the high stress, they need to be able to grab something and go someplace where things are certain. Where they know the good guy's going to win. They know the bad guy's going to lose. The hero ride off with the girl in the sunset. They need this. They're not getting it. Grim dark right now is not what people want.
No.
They want hope. They want to go away. They don't want to read something that mirrors what they do every day.
Nor do they want a lecture about how evil they are.
Who wants to get a book that mirrors walking out the door at 8 o'clock in the morning?
Well, and enduring a nihilistic drudgery. We live in a time where there's a dearth of heroes, right? And we need to bring heroism back. We need to bring exemplars
Yes.
back,
And
right?
it's deliberately, they're proud of the fact they don't write heroes.
Mm-hmm.
The
Well-
deconstructing a hero has been this grand
No, see,
overarching
okay,
thing.
so that's the thing. Okay, say what you will about Elon Musk. I love the man because he's in love with humanity and what humanity is capable of doing, which is what I got at the beginnings of science
He's
fiction.
someone out of a pulp.
He's
He might be
a pulp
he might
hero.
be the bad guy, but he's out of a pulp.
I want to see
He
what.
is.
Okay, so I want to see his lair. You know, I want to see what Elon Musk's lair would look like. His superhero lair,
Oh, he's
because
got one. You know he's got one.
If anyone's basing a villain off of Elon Musk or a hero, please feel free to submit. Go click on our open submission calls on Substack.
But it was. There are those who, it's like, I don't want to celebrate somebody's flaws. I don't want to spend my entire life going.
Well, they're easy.
Well, the point is,
They're easy to emulate.
No. Let me finish this, guys.
No.
But what I find really offensive now is how we are supposed to celebrate people's damage. I'm not interested in celebrating anybody's damage. What your mental illness is, what your current whatever thing that you're supposed to have on your ticky box of damage, so you get the most chit points for which Russian Olympics we're doing. I am not interested in celebrating any of that, because focusing on that focuses on the least of us. I want to celebrate the people who are the most of us, who, even though they have that, rise above and do more and create more and can and look like, everyone's going, Musk is crazy. He thinks we're going to be on Mars in 5 years. I'm like, I'm in. I'm in. Because
we need the
idea of
excitement.
hope.
We need the challenge.
Well, the idea of hope. You know what I saw today on my way driving here? I saw my very first Tesla truck in Texas that I first saw one. Those are the coolest trucks ever. They do some amazing things. No, I'm sorry. When you see one up person, they're like flipping all this stuff and doing their thing. I love them, because it's like, it's not out of the latest wind tunnel that all the other damn car companies are doing.
Well,
Did it stop as soon as the charging cord ran out of room?
Yeah, well, it obviously had the extra suspension for the double battery pack. So, and it was black and it was beautiful. Oh my God, it was gorgeous. So, but the fact is, it was somebody thinking past the box that we're currently in. And so much about the Pulse, we're thinking past the box we're in.
And I think that's the point you're making. Like, do something innovative. Try,
Even if it doesn't work, do it.
In a time when the market is super
Get your face on screen.
In a time when the market is super saturated with books about these characters, we're the outliers.
Yeah. And
come buy the weird stuff. Come to RacChat Press and get the weird stuff.
Oh, definitely weird.
Oh, we do that, but that's the point.
That's your motto. That's what we put on the big banner: is be entertaining. All else is negotiable.
Yeah. Well, but the point too is that it's the beliefs that we start with is the
we don't
integrity.
get into negotiable virtual. That's a whole other.
But our integrity is not negotiable.
Yeah.
How much money are you
It's for sale, but not negotiable. Yeah.
No, but I mean, in terms of the premises of what we look for, is that we are looking for that sense of hope, the sense of wonder, the sense of how can we do more and be better? How can we be entertaining and not waggle a finger at somebody who's reading? Because God knows we don't need that anymore.
I want to be the ruby in the pile of manure.
Yeah, I think we're already there.
Yeah, and I mean, I've done things with the cover design that shouldn't be remarkable, and yet they are, when people come to us with the second all will burn, and they're like, it's a father protecting his children, and you just don't see that in commercial art.
You don't.
And
so that premise of hope, joy, fun, whimsy.
Yeah.
How dare we have a good time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we just do cool nerd stuff, folks?
I don't mind message fiction, because let's face it, most of Star Trek the original series was message fiction. The one series,
Moon is a Harsh Mistress, is message fiction.
Well, not at expense of the story.
No, it was entertaining first.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and
I
arguably,
remember the black and the two guys in black and white.
Right.
And then when it finally clicked, it was message at the end. You went, oh,
yeah. Well, and
brilliantly done.
So that's the thing, which is, if you actually want to convey a message effectively, you have to be entertaining first, because otherwise it doesn't stick with.
Mhm.
Very
Otherwise,
few
they
people-
punch next page, next page, next page, next
Right.
page, next story.
Yeah, very few people choose these days to go and listen to a sermon. But if you go back and you read, there was an era in the 19th century when there was a bunch of revivals going on and everything. If you go back and you read those guys' sermons,
Oh yeah.
they were storytellers, and those were entertaining. I mean, totally different and weird linguistically based to what
Yeah.
we're used to. But if you know what you're reading, because I had to read them for school, it was a thing. So you can't even have effective message without first being an effective entertainer.
Well, we were talking about the stories of what was that conversation we were having? We were talking about different things that tie into. We were discussing the Bible. Interestingly enough, we were talking about it being distilled knowledge of 10,000 years of people trying to learn to live together,
Right.
and the story arcs of hero and why and how you affect a community by your behaviors and how that matters and how we choose to live together. That was a really fun conversation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
We
we've
should
been
have
having these
recorded
great collaborative conversations that have been so much fun, and that's the fun part of getting a bunch of crazy people together. So you just wander all over these topics. It's great. But we were talking about that and how that story arc matters when you're discussing things, when you're putting together a story.
Did you know that Charles Dickens' most famous story, A Christmas Carol,
Yes.
was written? He had been asked. There was a need to raise funds for a children's
Come
hospital.
closer to the microphone.
Yeah, he was asked to raise funds for a children's hospital, and they asked him to write some ad copy thing, and he thought, wait a minute, I'll make more hay with this if I write a story.
Yes.
So he wrote a story, and of course Tiny Tim is desperately ill and needs help and all that, but also then the two children who come with the Ghost of Christmas Present.
Yes.
One is called Want, and one is called Ignorance or something like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes. It was wanton ignorance.
Wanton
Because those were
ignorance,
the big things that he was fighting.
And he's, the whole thing was a message about desperately poor children, especially who were just invisible in society.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he had been a child working in a factory. He worked in a blacking factory as a child, but the irony of the fact that he wrote this thing to promote good for, it ultimately resulted in a massive hospital being built for poor, exclusively for poor children in London. And I mean, the fact that they'd ask him, can you do a promotional thing for us? Can you work with us? And he thought, no, I'll win them over with a story, a narrative that actually tells something that goes beyond and actually demonstrates some things instead of just saying.
And that era was full of moral stories. I mean, most, and definitely if it was being written for children, there was always a moral at the end or nobody would publish it, which echoes a lot today. So the fact that he managed to pull Christmas Carol off without moralizing was, I mean, just because he was a phenomenal storyteller.
Testament into his skill as a storyteller.
Yeah.
I think when you get down to it, he did moralize. You just
Well, he
don't
definitely
realize it.
did.
You just don't
Exactly.
realize
Notice.
Well, he showed
So-
a picture and let the audience draw a conclusion.
Yes. He didn't tack on the explicit moral at the end, because so many, especially like I said, children's books of that era always ended with this is the moral of the story, and the little girl faded away and died, and it Victorian era children's stories
very-
are very dark.
They're a little dark.
Very dark.
It's like it's very dark.
Which is that's what we're trying
But
to
it's
avoid.
honest.
Oh yeah,
But
no,
it's honest
it was.
storytelling,
It
so-
was. Well, no, a lot of the dark stuff was also put in because it was meant to
I'm aware
teach
of
the
that.
children to scare them. But that's what we're trying to avoid when we edit anthologies for Raconteur Press. We're not looking for dark stories.
No.
We're looking for stories that are
Except for All Will Burn. But dark.
Well, you can write it dark, so it's not going to be rejected simply because it's dark.
But I think it needs to. If it's dark, it also needs to have hope. There needs to be a balance.
Right. Well, certainly, not dark as in I don't. Yeah,
Everyone
not
died.
nihilistic. Not
Right,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like
dark.
so.
It must be entertaining.
Well,
Yes.
and we were having this discussion of books that we love and stories that we love when we were at FoolsCon, which I think is some of the best conversations we have. Plus here too, we got into this really chewy conversation about and going, "Haven't you read this book?" And Mike's going home with a
I got a stack of homework.
Yeah, it was like you haven't read.
And Ben Yallow sending me another homework assignment.
Yeah, because there's like piles.
A Lee Brackett novel.
Lee Brackett's
Ooh,
Sword of Rhiannon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's-
Lee Brackett is awesome.
Email me and I'll see if I got that book. And
Yep.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, he could have shipped it here by now.
Homework from Ben is a thing, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, we're
So-
thinking we need to just start so what did Ben make you read? And the sheer joy of people come back and went, "Oh, he told me to read this and it was amazing."
Yeah.
It's like Nick is reading a Tim Powers book that Ben was like, "You have to read this book," and he was like, "Yes, sir."
Well, it's funny too because Ben gave me homework that wasn't actually a book; it was films. But Ben had given Dorothy Grant homework.
Yes.
The Conjure Wife.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And she was talking about it, and I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And I bounced out of it so hard.
Well, because it wasn't for you.
No, it wasn't for me.
It was for her.
Ben hadn't assigned it to me. I just because it.
Stop doing other people's homework.
Well, what the thing was is that the Conjure Wife. He was talking about the fact that it's really difficult to categorize because it's
impossible to figure out where to
different
put it.
genres.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't remake it. Like he was saying, you can't.
It's been put into several different categories and publications.
There's no
It
other
just
media
doesn't-
that seems to
right.
work
It
with
doesn't
it.
fit anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, it was the I started to read it, and the male main character reminded me of my ex-husband, and I just
Couldn't.
done. So I'm done. I might come back to it later and try again, just because
It's America.
I do
You don't
think
have to
it's-
read it.
No, I don't have to, but I kind of want to because I know it's supposed to be really cool. But the thing of it is that each of us gets assigned different homework because he's very wise as far as
he's good
what
at
we need
picking.
and want, and
Mhm.
yeah, he's very good at that because he did hand me a copy of the Fabulous Clip Joint,
Yeah. Oh.
and that
And then you
I
sat
was
down.
already familiar with Fred Brown.
You
so-
sat down and asked him. So what classifies as sordid
Yeah.
sorcery?
All I had to say, I just needed a sentence with the word sword and sorcery in it, and I knew that would
You pushed a button.
set him off in the right direction. All I had to do was sit back and listen.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
That
I think that's what I was. I was like, so what would classify, sword and sorcery versus, I don't know, another, like what is required for it to be that?
Yeah.
Mostly I just wanted them to talk about sword,
you
sword
just found a
sorcery.
different button to push. 'Cause
Yeah.
You'd pushed other buttons and gotten great stuff.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes. And
Oh.
Well, and
but that was the fun part too. Is him talking all about that book,
Mhm.
which then led to several other conversations about favorite books.
did I tell you what he recommended for children's books?
What did he recommend?
His entree to science fiction,
Okay.
Oh,
Tom Swift.
Tom
Oh,
Swift,
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean Tom, and he was careful to tell me that Tom Swift predates him, which yes, I knew that.
But not Jim Curtis.
But not Jim Curtis.
Oh, see, Tim's not even here to defend himself.
That's okay. That's okay. It's fine.
But it was
But it's true. I
Yeah.
mean, Tom Swift was an entree for so many people.
even
know?
me. I mean, Tom Swift books, and he said not Tom Swift Jr., although he read those too, but the Tom Swift books themselves.
Do you remember
Or
the
what
first
he'd
science fiction you read?
So for me, the first that I read, I don't remember for sure, but it may very well have been a Tom Swift.
Yeah.
Oh no, you know what it was? I don't. Is that science fiction?
What?
The Phantom Tollbooth.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Is it science fiction or fantasy, or is
Close
it
enough.
both?
Close enough. It got you into the weird
Yeah.
and the wonderful. Do
Yeah.
you remember your first science fiction?
Book?
Yeah. Or
'Cause
story or
Now, because I'm having a hard time, when I was a kid, you could read this on my Substack, by the way.
And you should. His Substack is
I
hilarious.
remember sitting in my mom's lap and her reading comic books to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Conan, the John Carter Warlord of Mars comic
Yeah.
books, right? Batman, Spider-Man. I remember that. I remember watching. My earliest introduction to science fiction was it Bob Wilkins' Creature Feature?
Oh yeah.
Right? Those
Yeah.
stories, and they're awful when you look at. But I would just thought they were awesome.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Godzilla, the original Godzilla movie, as a wee tiny kid, and I fell asleep during the movie. So the next morning, my dad wakes up to the sound of me crying hard. He comes running down the hallway. No more damn monster movies for the kid. God, God. What's wrong? I don't know what happened to the monster. Oh, and Star Trek. Watching Star Trek as a kid, and all that stuff. The Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
Those are my earliest.
Wham!
Wham! Those are my early memories.
Sideways, where they're bent over. Obviously, they've got
and they're right.
Their cape is like wired out.
Listen,
so they look this.
my earliest daydreams as a child were wearing my own full Batman onesie, running around the decks of the Enterprise in my mind.
Oh, I love it.
So the first book. Well, no, okay. My parents made me read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea to them out loud.
Oh,
so
cool.
I suppose that was maybe the first book. The first book I chose to read, the day I put down a comic book, and I was like, because my mom loved to go to bookstores, right?
Yeah. Oh, and find a noble one.
Yeah. And I remember saying, can I pick out my own book to read? And my parents were like, hallelujah. And I picked out Conan the Warrior. So the first science fiction series I read was the John Carter of Mars. I read Robert E. Howard, followed immediately by Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Yeah. So my first experience with science fiction was I don't know where we were. I think we were on the East Coast. We come back to Springfield to because every time we moved base, we would go back to my grandparents' house, and it was a very particular day in history, and Grandpa had set up the camera in the living room, aimed at the TV, and I sat in his lap as men walked on the moon.
Ooh.
Yeah. That was my very first experience with, we can do that?
Yeah.
We can do that? And then my mother, after that, read the Space Child's Mother Goose to me.
Oh, wow.
And then I was seeing Star Trek, in that point, was reruns.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As a little teeny kid.
Yeah.
And then, we had the Jetsons on the morning cartoons, but the first truly science fiction book I remember reading all on my own was Podkane of Mars.
Okay. Yeah. That's some of my homework.
I was reading really early because I don't remember learning how. I just knew how to read. Mm-hmm. And Mom would do that. She'd read a comic book and not the last 4 panels and just leave it there for me to figure out. That's how she told me she taught me how to read. And I was reading before I went into kindergarten. But that's what I dove into, but I was also doing Tom Swift.
Yeah.
And
Encyclopedia Brown.
Brain. Well, yeah, and Mother West
I'm trying to think, of other books I had and read, because to me it was just couldn't tell you. I was really into comic books as a kid, but I really loved science fiction, and I remember having to read Hardy Boys books and.
Well, they were okay.
And they weren't science fiction, but,
But they were at least interesting adventures,
I remember having to read The Sound of Thunder in school.
Oh.
And that was awesome. Usually, we got to read this thing. And The Sound of Thunder was a great story to read as a kid.
Yeah, at 12 I read Luna's Harsh Mistress. Sort of set me on a path. So,
yes.
I would have been 10, probably. And I had pretty much gone through everything I wanted to read in the children's side of the Toke Public Library and in the interior of Alaska. We were out in the bush. And so there's not a lot of books. The library is not big. And the librarian refused to let me go over into the grown-ups side of the collection in the little building. What she did was unlocked the back storage room where the books that just didn't circulate, but the library didn't want to get rid of, which included the entire hardbound set of all of Edgar Rice Burroughs books. And that was I went through the entire thing. And I would have been between about 10 and 11 working on that.
And there,
I was reading those too.
We were talking about some of those books the other day. He's famous for the Tarzan and the John Carter stuff
in there that doesn't necessarily fit for the kids.
But there's but I remember specifically just because the title is so strange. I Am a Barbarian. About the Roman soldiers in little boots running around with them, right? Oh man, what else?
God, there's
What else? There's
so much.
just so many. Outlaw of Torn, right?
Yes.
Those stories were.
Well, and for me too, I was hitting science fiction and fantasy at that age, but I was also hitting other things too.
Yeah.
For a long time, I don't remember reading a lot of children's books when I was a kid, but I actually did. I mean, for fantasy, I discovered that there were more books to The Wizard of Oz.
Yes, I read the entirety of the Wizard of Oz books. They were so great.
Well, there's first 14 that L. Frank Baum wrote.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they are wonderfully weird.
They're so bizarre.
And if you've ever seen the illustrated ones, the old trade.
Yes. The illustrations are amazing.
They are.
Yeah.
They're just so, and the story is so rich.
Now I know what I'm tapping into for Goblin Market.
Ooh, well, I've been holding on to this one, but one of my favorite books as a kid is Where the Wild Things Are.
Yes.
And I loved, as a kid who liked to draw, I loved to draw monsters.
Okay. Yeah. So when I was little, my first grade teacher in Spain, Mrs. Arnold, absolute brilliant teacher, knew I was going to be in military school. You know, I was growing up in the military, and we were bouncing every 3 to 6 months to a new base. Yeah. And she told me in first grade at David Glasgow Fair Elementary in Rota, Spain, to go to the library and find 3 books. And every time I went to a new school, to go look for those books, so I would always have friends when I got there. Right? And one of them was Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Wonderful.
Which was pure, you can create the world you choose.
Yes.
You can choose to create the world that you want.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like this early thing and with Danny and the Dinosaur was one of the other ones. But Harold and the Purple Crayon has stuck with me ever since, and into this sense of you can draw what you want. You can make what you want. You can create the space you want to live in, you know?
Yeah, so. I mean, I live that, and I get the weirdest reactions from people because they're like, "You write, and you're an artist, and you do science stuff," and I'm like, because I've always wanted to do some of this. I mean, some of it came as a surprise as I became an adult and figured out that I could and wanted to do these things. But I was fortunate in, as a child, I was never given limitations. It was always, if you want to do something, learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And then do it. Yeah, and then just do it. And obviously I realized that I have inherent limitations. Being 5'2" female gave me physical limitations. There's no way to get past that, which is one of my frustrations with very unrealistic stories with little tiny women beating up big burly guys. Yes, Samuel Colt, the leveler of all men, is that's one of the several reasons that
First Contact has never been made easier. Thank you, Rick Cutler.
Thank you, Rick Cutler. Yes. Oh man, I love that. I just love that so much.
So yeah, now we're worried now that everyone's going to have a Rex Cutler revolver in all their stories.
Revolver. Do not use that as an excuse to think it's going to get you in another anthology. It's not going to happen.
But like one create your own use of
create your own. Make your own. So give us a reason for a new illustration.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's the thing is you give me something fantastic and you will get an illustration and you could possibly get immortalized like a certain Mr. Cutler.
Yes. Learn to play.
Yeah.
Learn to play.
So one of the Substacks that I follow, it actually focuses on the importance of play and how we have lost play culturally and we were talking about this and the mental health
because we've been playing for 3 days and it's just been so much fun.
Yeah, and I'll have to find because I can't remember the title of the Substack off my head, but the fellow that's doing it is like a PhD doctor and it gets really scholarly and very academic at times, but it's fascinating because he's absolutely right. And there are a lot of reasons we've done it, but kids these days are so scheduled.
They're so structured. It's so sad.
And they're not allowed to go outside and just be free to
eat some dirt.
Yeah, run off and get into trouble. I mean, I ran around in the Alaskan wilderness. Now, there were cautions put on that, but we had so much freedom, and I'm an outlier because I was raised extremely rurally and by a family that advocated for these kinds of things. So even my generation, kids of the late 70s, early 80s, had so much more restriction than the generation before them.
Well, we all grew up.
Yeah.
So,
I remember being 6, 7 years old and riding my bike a mile, 2 miles down the road to the store to get candy because I found a quarter.
Well, and that's the thing too. Is I was thrown out first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
We drank water from the hose.
Yeah.
Mom would
get out of the house.
Mom would yell for us to come home to eat lunch, so we ate something.
Mm-hmm.
And
and we all skinned our knee on our bikes because we made a stupid ramp out of plywood.
Right, and or we climbed a tree and fell out,
Mm-hmm.
or we fell over a fence, or we, or we ate dirt, and or literally ate dirt because we were swinging on the swing and went to leap out and like face planted.
Yep.
But it's and we weren't allowed back in until it was dinner time. It was getting dark.
Yeah.
It was just like out.
I didn't even come home for lunch. I mean, I learned how to forage and would find wild edible whatnots or catch a fish and build a fire and cook it.
Well, our thing was just, we'd show up so my mother could patch up my
Someone
sister.
was feeding us cheese sandwiches and peanut butter.
Yeah.
We weren't fighting bears.
Like you were.
I wasn't fighting bears. Now the little red squirrels. We have a thing about squirrels.
Well, that whole coming home when we were like.
Now I'm little cedar lily and the cannibal squirrel.
How many kids today know about honeysuckle and getting the nectar from a honeysuckle bloom?
Sucking the nectar out of a clover. I mean, we didn't necessarily have honeysuckle when I grew up, but clovers we had.
Yeah.
So
or chew on dandelion leaves just because,
Well, and I've seen
sorrel,
I've seen kids, the idea of I took off on a nature walk with friends and a bunch of their kids, and we get out, we're having a nice time, and I'm pointing out flora and fauna and whatnot, and then the little is like, I have to go pee, and I'm like, I looked at her mom and I'm like, is she bush trained? And her mom's like, no. And that's the thing is,
I'm not the present.
Well,
drop and squat, girl. So.
This is something that I failed with my oldest daughter. I never did teach her to get comfortable peeing outside. And this isn't necessarily a skill that you need, but I think it's indicative of the level of luxury that we all...
We were talking about that
earlier. We've had some really great conversations. It's been a lot of fun just being able to have a bunch of really creative minds who are wide open and want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday we had a Crack Rack Press meeting of almost everybody was here. We didn't have Amanda and Nick, but we had everybody else here. And we just had this wonderful, broad-ranging conversation about the press and books to read and things that were great. And it was so much fun.
And the silly hats came out.
And the silly hats came out because we are at the Blanket Fort and Jonna has a lot of silly hats.
And knives and axes.
Yes.
I do. I have lots. I have like very large, pointy things, and I should have had my shears out, my 8-inch shears.
Yes,
but I didn't think about that.
Another time.
But
you were busy.
I was. My shop.
You had your hands full of
people.
iPhone. Yeah.
People.
Well,
and I was taking pictures.
I think that
philosophy of being able to just have those moments of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
We seize the moment. I would like to do it again with a little forward notice and the proper camera and setup and stuff, and actually do some.
And there's some lessons I think in that.
Yeah.
Like the videos we did just off the
just
cuff.
out of the blue. Yeah.
Are they great works of engineering? No, but they're fun, and that's what's going to work. You can see the spontaneity of everyone jumping in there. And you cannot, we were having this discussion.
Yeah.
You cannot be worried about how foolish you look.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Don't care.
Otherwise, when you rein in that and you're worried about how I'm going to look,
you're stiff.
Then that performance, whatever it is going to be terrible.
Yeah. Well, there's a side to that too, is how we approach things as a press.
Mm-hmm.
And we're wide open about the fact that we're still trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And
we make mistakes.
And
we learn,
we're like,
and we fix it.
We'll try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Raconteur Press. Whimsical, weird, and wildly out of control. This has been going on all week too.
Yeah, they're writing stuff down.
And weird is with a WYRD.
Okay. Wait. I have
Whimsical?
somebody close. Wait. No. Raconteur Press.
This is how now you're seeing how the
Whimsical.
How the sausage is made.
Yes. Weird with a Y, and wildly out of control.
Wildly out of control.
You remember Mr. Toad's Wild Ride?
Yes,
That's
I've been on that ride. I don't know how many times. It was the best.
Wait, there's a ride? I know the book.
Orange County Disneyland, yeah.
Yes,
I've
they have
never
it.
done
They
any
have it
Disney
over. They have it
things,
at
so-
Disney World too.
Oh, do they? I've
And it's a
never
little
been
bit
there.
bigger on the one there, so it's crazy. It's so much fun. Racketeer Press, whimsical, weird, and wildly out of control. That's a new button.
Yes. And
we
that's the
did
other
this.
thing.
We've created like 6 buttons in the last 3 days.
Right.
Stickers and buttons.
Stickers and buttons.
This is the fun thing is we're creating merch because
Well, it just
some of the zaniness needs to get out there to you guys, and it supports the press. I mean, it keeps us doing
going.
what we do.
The quotes
So-
I have from this weekend are a little frightening. Going back and reading them.
Well,
Well, I mean,
context matters,
I know the one I made the sticker out of today, the little round sticker thing, is that one was not made in public, and there's a lack of context, which is part of the reason I created it. Is I'm just like, this is weird enough that
That was made. That was said on the other live stream.
They said it on the live stream
Was it on the live
Tuesday.
stream?
Yeah.
Okay,
He said it Tuesday. Well, he was sitting here in our discussion on Sunday.
right. That's when I.
That's when, because
Yeah.
you had never heard that expression before.
And I was like, "Well, stop!" and wrote it down.
Yeah,
So,
because I remember that, and then
Lisa
wasn't
got her
able-
catchphrase on
Oh
Saturday.
yes. I don't know if she watches any of these, but
Yeah, and this one has to. I'm going to give you this prompt on air, and I want to see what comes from you.
Okay.
And then Sister Mary Discipline said I should be a writer.
I remember hearing that.
All right then.
This is how it happens. This is what because we're doing this all the time. All the time, it's like this.
Mhm.
I mean, we have a couple quiet hours in the morning because he had work to do and I needed my coffee, and it's like, stop being energetic. I mean, he's learned though. I walk in the door, and there's coffee and there were pastries. I'm like, you can stay.
I like getting invited back.
Yeah. So I mean, your Groundhog Day is turning out pretty well, but it's that constant, like, what do we need to? What can we do that? You know,
Yeah.
is. And you need that, and if you guys can find that for yourselves in a group of people, oh my God, it's the best thing ever.
And that collaborative
Spark
Yeah.
starts gaining momentum,
It
right?
does.
That's another thing
It
we've
really
been
does.
focusing on. I don't know, for the last 3-4 weeks now, we've been talking about how do we get momentum, how do we maintain it.
Yeah.
Every now and then we
Yeah.
have to stop and go, okay, how we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of where we've been because end of quarter hit.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, probably will have already seen that end of quarter. So where are we at? How are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to come back and check our premises and see if we're still doing the thing we said we would do.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of had to stop and sit back and talk amongst all of us. It's like, okay, how are we doing?
Yeah.
Are we going in the same direction?
Yeah.
Are we doing the stuff we need to be doing? Have we achieved some of the stuff that we wanted to do? And it just kind of okay, we're going that way still.
Yep.
Even though we're kind of doing it like,
And once we get confident with projects, like with the anthologies at this point, we're starting to add on the foundations for the next project that y'all won't see until next year.
Yeah.
But we're already working on the next big things
with these wonderful collaborative silly meetings.
Oh yeah.
So
it's so much fun.
Especially you two.
Well,
the boys. But no, you guys are doing that. It's really fun watching you and Nick go. And it'd be really cool if we could do blah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And being open to it.
Well, I think that's the theme of this particular recording and conversation.
Be open to play.
Being open to play, giving yourself permission to be silly,
but also springing from a premise that is solid in where you're going.
You have to have a foundation. I mean, I think that a lot of modern culture poo-poos the idea of foundational
we were talking about that.
And substance.
Yes.
And even having a foundation, but you really cannot
have that conversation
without a foundation.
The foundation in a world in a one of the things we were talking about is how your worldview impacts your values.
Yeah.
And your values impacts your behavior.
Yes.
And taking that to the press again. So what's our foundational?
What is our foundational?
Worldview? How are we looking at this project?
Be entertaining.
get our authors paid.
You know, we start with integrity.
Yeah.
We start with integrity and openness and honestness there first.
Yeah.
You know, and being open and honest in our play, as well as our business practices. So
yes, honestly, we're a bunch of goofballs.
We're just a bunch of goobers. We are such a bunch of goobers. I mean, and
nerds.
Yeah, and we found out that little tiny Lisa is really the reincarnated monster from Young Frankenstein.
Oh my gosh,
that was hilarious.
I missed that, sadly.
That was so funny.
That was the funniest thing. Oh my gosh,
she's so tiny, and then she goes, "Ah!"
We're like, yeah. Well, look, the mountain gorilla's in here.
And you started doing it. So now like the two of you.
I did it because it was funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is we've done is we find one thing that's funny, and then we're like, oh, like that is funny. Let's do that, and let's add more.
And let's make a sticker and draw it.
Yes.
No, and let's make it an anthology. It's no.
Oh God.
No anthologies.
Other things to do here.
I am going to reach over here and lean on the end recording button here in a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
People
it's
are
that
probably
time.
tired of listening to us run our
How long have we talked?
It's almost 7.
Oh my God, we haven't had dinner.
We have talked for an hour and 5 minutes, and
frankly, over an hour already. Wow, we do this all the time.
Yes.
We were sitting here, we'd start doing stuff, and then we'd look at them and go, "How did it get to be 5?"
It's the end of the day. I'm going to sleep.
And we want to end before we bore all these good people.
Well, it's also your cranky pants are about to hear.
Oh yeah, it's about cranky 30.
even though you had a sandwich of doom today with Jim.
My.
So this was an experiment, and in having a conversation with each other and with y'all, and so we would like to know what you guys think about it and what you'd like to see more of. And obviously there's going to be some changes in the video stuff that we've been doing. So
well, we've decided it's time for Racketeer Press to talk about just who we are and how we do things and things that occur to us, and just give you more insight of how and the why.
And the silliness that goes on behind the scenes.
So
and taking advantage of having Mike here. I mean, he's stuck. We might as well do something with the stuck, so it's not so bad.
I'll tell Barry he can fix your truck now.
Heather actually goes, I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't put it past them. Okay, Barry, you
can fix your truck now. We got
She actually said that tonight. Yeah.
Okay, we'll stop with the real estate listings. It's okay. We'll just quit. On that note, we're gonna let Mike go and cranky pants and get some food. So
good night, all.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.